Yay.
Yay! Okay,
Hello.
okay. Let me just start my screen recording so that out. So yeah, this will
How
be
are you?
recorded throughout, and I'll just upload it um onto YouTube
You
afterwards. How are you?
good? How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad we're doing this. I'm so excited. I'm really, really excited.
Um, okay, our people are coming in, our guests.
Yes, people are coming in. So 12 o'clock we can start. It's just 2 minutes now. It's so hot in here. Oh my God. Because now we're
What?
approaching summer. Yeah, we're approaching summer. So,
Oh, we're
so
approaching
yeah,
our
it's
winter now, so you can imagine it's quite chilly. The
yeah,
mornings and the evenings are
yeah.
quite cold, and we've had rain for the past 2 days, non-stop rain.
Ooh. Oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, it hasn't been rain. It's been very nice. So it's a pity that we are on lockdown. We can't really experience the nice weather when we have it. But we are here now. We are here.
Hey.
Oh, I see Kathy saying, can we
Yes,
please
it'll
do
be
it
saved.
live? Kathy, I'm already recording this live as we're speaking. So after this, I'm going to upload it on YouTube. So yeah, I'm glad people are making their way in. This is great.
Hmm.
So yeah, okay. I think in about 1 minute we can start. So you're saying everything is good that side?
Everything is okay this side, except we just having to battle with how we manage our students and
Yes.
how to keep them engaged and studying. Yeah, it's been quite hectic. It's been quite
Yeah.
hectic.
Do you
God,
think the
but
students do take initiative to actually study whilst they're at home, or are you worried? Is it like quiet? People are not sending questions and stuff.
tell you what, at 1:45, I have an online consultation with a student. That is how committed the students are. Like every
That's
day, we
great.
have to
That's great
consult.
to hear.
So
That's
it's going
really
good.
good.
There's students who really, really want this.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Okay, awesome. Now it's 12 o'clock, so we can start.
Yeah.
So today we're going to do this. Tebogo is saying they don't take initiative. Tebogo, take initiative.
You
Okay.
need to.
So how are we going to do the one for today? So for today, myself and Dave will be contributing to this. So today we are not just taking everything from Dave. I'm going to try and contribute it as well. So how we're going to do this is that I'm just going to give you guys just a brief story of my journey with ITC, really just brief, few minutes, what happened when it came to my ITC attempts. And then after that, Dave will also speak about his experience in ITC. And then once we have done that, I'll come back and then I'll just touch on a few points. After that, Dave will give his practical steps on what you can do now up until you write in June 2020, right? And then once he has done that, I'll then wrap that up and give my tips as well and add on maybe other things that he hasn't said. So what's exciting is that I didn't share my notes with Dave, and this was intentional. And he also didn't share his notes with me. So this will be the first time I hear what Dave did, and this will be the first time he hears what I did. So it's going to be so beneficial to you guys because it won't be just structured and we won't just stick to the same script. So okay, let's start. So my attempt for ITC, for all of you guys who have watched my video on YouTube, I did say that the first attempt wasn't a great attempt. Who do I blame that to? Entirely on myself. So what happened is that after CTA, when I was super, super tired, I left rest, I went back home, and I just had the time of my life, the best December of my life. Oh, it was so nice. And then January came, I panicked. I ran around, I panicked. And then maybe 2 weeks before ITC, I tried to page everything and nothing was making sense. My notes, like my blue files, everything was foreign. So it was a mess. So as you can guess, yes, I did fail my first attempt. And obviously I was crushed because I was hoping to pass. And that's what we do as students. You don't put in the work, but you hope to pass. How? How? So I was hoping to pass, and results came, and they were like, yeah, no, you gotta put in the work. And
No.
so they're like, nope. So I then prepared for June, of which I will let you guys know how I prepared for June and how I ended up actually passing the June ITC. And on the bright side, guys, now myself and Dave, as you know, we are both qualified chartered accountants and we're doing fairly well in our careers. And we have also been marking ITC. So don't think just because you failed ITC, no one wants to look at you anymore. No, 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 no. There's a lot you can still bring to the table. So that's why we are still here. So now let's move on and listen to Dave's story.
Hi guys. I like how we are just so different in our experiences because you had a great December before writing ITC. I had the complete opposite. So did board course, passed CTA, did board course, and halfway through December lost a family member. So that just threw me off completely, completely, completely. And obviously you end up losing a decent 3 to 4 weeks of study prep. And I only started preparing just before we wrote. We wrote on the Wednesday and the Thursday. I only started preparing thoroughly on the Sunday before then. And as you would have it, results come out and it's a no. It's an F because you are not in the right mind space because, you're worried that you didn't prepare enough despite knowing what you know because walking into ITC, you do know what it is that you do know. But coming into the exam itself, you're in a totally different headspace. And that could also explain why some people failed this time around. There could be people who had a minor accident in the morning. That too can throw you off, can just throw you off completely. I mean, I know of one student that actually had a very, very trivial accident the one morning when they're going around and results came back unpleasant for them because of that one morning. Yes. So yeah, yet here we are. We are still successful in our careers. We are still progressing. And the thing about it all is personally for me, because this was for me the first time I failed at anything, guys. I never, ever failed at anything. And this was for me such an experience. And you realize that being fallible only makes you human more than anything. Being able to fail only makes you human. And we all fail in one way or another. Unfortunately for some people, your failures are tangible, more tangible than other people's failures. But everyone fails, guys. Everyone fails. And I keep saying to people, rather fail, know that you're failing academically than failing at life as a whole. Because when it's academic, you can always come back from it. You can see where you went wrong and then just carve a way forward to bring you to a point where you have passed. Yes. And that's just basically my experience with ITC. Yeah, of course, I went back for June and I went in guns blazing, guys. For June, I went in guns blazing. I remember even making a pact with myself where I was like, I'm giving it such a good punch that should I not pass this time around, I'm going to know for a fact that being a CA is not something I'm meant to be.
That's a great point. That's actually a great point because every time I also attempt something, I ensure that whatever the outcome, it's not on me. It's not on me. I put everything that I can put in it because what usually happens is that students just take chances and then they don't know what to blame because, you didn't study, you didn't do all of this. So now you just don't know. But then when you put everything for the second time, yeah, that's a great point. That's really a great point. Guys. So guys, we are going to start talking about the tips for the plan very, very soon. just before we start on that, I just want to encourage you guys, because what I realized, especially when I was doing the videos for APC, is that students don't go to the SAICA website. Like, do you know that SAICA website, they have so much information for you. They have so much information for you. So SAICA has the ITC competency framework, guys. So I just wanted to start by saying that go to SAICA, read their competency framework. It's not only for ITC, they have specific parts for ITC, but most of it is the guidance to ITC. So just remember, guys, your next exam is on the 24th to the 25th of June. So go to the SAICA website, look at all the information that they're speaking about. And I also just wanted to highlight that when you look at that competency framework, they're going to talk to you about, they're going to tell you about the competencies that they usually test, the level of proficiency that you should know certain things. And they are just, you know, the difference between knowledge as well as understanding, as well as competence. So these are the little things that we usually miss because we looking at all the finer details when we're studying.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to just advise you to go to the SAICA website and look at their competency framework, look at their examinable pronouncements, and you'll see, guys, you'll get a lot. So, okay, so that we don't waste time, I'm going to take this back to Dave, and we'll be starting and talking about the plan, you know, what you can do now up until June. So what I'm going to do quickly now is that I'm just going to push up this camera because, my gosh, why isn't my, oh, okay, it's going to appear now. So I'm just going to push up this camera so that you guys can see. I will be writing the tips that we're talking about now. As and when Dave is talking about this, I will be, is it the other way?
Yes, and I think because are you using your front camera?
Yes, I am.
Do you want to turn your tripod around and switch cameras?
If I switch cameras and turn my tripod, oh, okay, it's fine. You guys don't have to. Oh yeah, you still see me. I just won't see myself. Okay, that's fine. So let's.
But the writing is to left.
The what?
The writing on the board is appearing.
Yes, I'm saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so I'm saying I'm gonna turn it around and then switch the camera, right?
Okie dokes.
Yes, yes. Okay, so you guys already know my place, so that's fine. So there, and let's change that. And hey, that's fine, right? Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. I hope I'll be able to hear you properly. Let me just bring it closer to me. There.
Do you not feel like what you felt like?
Okay,
lecturing?
Huh?
Does it not feel like your lecturing days all over again?
I know. It now I'm super excited. I am super excited. Okay, so Dave, in as much as I can't see you, can you see me?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so I'll be making notes for you guys for the tips to making the plan. So Dave, what would you say about what one can do from now up until June in preparing for their second attempt?
So this is how I approached this. I always find comfort in knowing what went wrong. So the first thing that I did for myself was of course, you process the emotions and all of that because your confidence has taken a knock. And I mean, we are a week after results have come out. So by now, every person who is actually having to repeat needs to have processed what happened. And by process, I mean, go through every one of those papers. Think back to say, on the Wednesday in the morning, this is how I felt I wrote the paper. In the afternoon, this is how I felt I wrote. The following day in the morning, this is how I think I wrote. And in the afternoon again, this is how I felt I wrote. And thereafter, approach SAICA, order your script. which is what I did. I ordered my script and I separated the scripts into their sessions. The first paper written on the Wednesday, I actually put it down. I said, I remember this is how I felt on the Wednesday. This is how I felt I had written. You look at what you've written there. Of course, you need to take into account a freshly printed paper, question paper of every one of the papers and their solutions, but just put aside the solution for now. Look at the questions, look at the scenarios, look at what you've written, go back to your thought process. You will then from there also see that it is actually not that you do not know certain things. More than anything, it's your interpretation of what was being asked in the paper. So somebody is saying we can't order until lockdown is over. Now what? That is still fine. What needs to happen is you still need to be able to download that paper. The papers you still should be able to download. Once you've downloaded the papers, guys, interrogate the papers. Interrogate the papers. Identify the parts in the papers that you were least comfortable with. And those you should put aside to say, in this paper, this is what was examined, and this is what I feel I was not so comfortable with. Now, the battle begins with this, Zanele. It's where you are now having to study what your mind tells you you already know. That for me is what I found to be most difficult. Because truth be told, the fact that you've passed your CTA, you've passed your undergrad, means you know enough. I mean, there is no university that'll give you a CTA unless they are certain that you'll comfortably split the ITC and actually pass. So there is an adequate amount of knowledge that you have. Except what we tend to forget when we failed is this. We tend to forget that an examiner sets a question based off of a topic. That topic has in it principles. So you could actually realize that you have an overall understanding of a topic, but the intricacies in the topic are what you're missing. And these intricacies are what have popped up in an exam, and that could be what had thrown you off. So those principles, again, are what we need to lean into and build between now and June when you write. Now, when you eventually get your script, you will want to see where you went wrong by comparing your solution to the solution that SAICA has prepared. And that too should add to the principles that you feel you were not so comfortable with, because in fact, at that point, when you're able to compare your script to the solution, it should not even be about whether or not you feel you are comfortable with those principles. You will know for a fact that you are not proficient in those principles that were examined. The positive side to all of this is this, guys. When you're repeating, you do not have to go into detail with everything. The entire syllabus is not what you need to get into details with, line by line, standard by standard, or every section of the legislation. You need to focus on that which you are not comfortable with. Now, somebody just commented, they said they think they missed the intricacies of the principle. We all have. It is, Dolly, we all have fallen short at some point or another where a principle was examined and we missed the intricacies. And this is what you need to isolate. From those papers, this is what you need to isolate. But now the beauty about everything is this, you guys. It's that when you have failed in a question, remember this. They have not asked everything. And as much as every examiner would want to get a greater amount of coverage in terms of the topics that they're asking, they have asked specific parts of the syllabus. And what that means, you having failed was actually examined. Maybe if you had been given a different set of questions or a different paper, you would have actually passed. So this too is a learning curve for you guys. And in the meantime, please, let's just wait for Zanele to come back to us. Let's hope she'll come back online just now. Okay.
Awesome. So
You're back.
we are back. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I just got a message saying my phone's temperature is too high and that's why I switched off. I'm sorry. But we're going to resume. We're talking about how people miss what was the question, Dave? What did they say?
Oh, the one lady had said that she's missed the principles, the intricacies of the principles in the paper.
Yes, yes. So
And
I was saying that what usually happens is that now you are at a different setting. So it's normal because everything is overwhelming. Everything can be so intimidating because there's so many students writing, especially if you're writing at Galaga. It's just a lot in one day.
it
So
is,
even though you know certain things, but when you are reading it at that time, yeah, a lot can happen.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So and I had said I said to them just after your phone cut us off that the positive side to this is that when a marker sets a paper, they're asking specific parts of the syllabus. And having failed at those does not necessarily mean you have failed at everything. I mean, if you have failed at a revenue question, that does not mean that if you had been given a PPE question, you would have failed. You know, so coming back to the fact
That's
that
it.
it does not mean that you guys know nothing. You got your CTAs, guys. You are competent. You are smart enough to do the ITC and pass it. Do not start thinking otherwise. All you have to do is plan, put together a game plan, and it begins with seeing where you went wrong. And again, isolate these things that you've gotten wrong. Rather have a bank of about 25 topics or even 40 topics, 10 topics per major, 10 topics in Manet, 10 topics in auditing, 10 topics in FINAC, whatever. Like, just decide from those papers that you wrote now in the ITC that you're going to extract 10 topics that you felt you were not comfortable with to begin with in each of the papers. 10 topics in each of the papers, and look at the intricacies of each of those topics. Look at the underlying principles in each topic. Make sure you understand them. But how do you go about doing that? Because some of you are having to juggle work and studying at the same time. I think Zanele's phone has overheated yet again.
Okay. We have the fan over here because apparently my phone is too hot. So Soul is helping me with the fan. This is, oh my god, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But guys, with the fan, oh my gosh, Sulu, guys, get yourself a Superman. Sulu is now standing here with a fan. Ah,
Big
okay.
house Cthulhu.
Okay, guys, let's continue so that we can be able to finish quickly because my phone doesn't let us finish.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna quickly recap on this, and Dave, you can add on anything else you wanted to say before we can move to my points.
All right.
Yes. Okay. So guys, so Dave was saying that remember to process the emotions because after feeling anything at all, you will be down. And I like where he said, process your emotions. Like, think about what was happening. How were you feeling before you wrote? How were you feeling during the first session? How were you feeling after that? How were you feeling in the second session? and how were you feeling after the session as well, right? So I really like that. That's a great tip. And he did say that you need to assess what went wrong. And in doing that, he actually ordered the script from SAICA, and we did acknowledge the fact that because of the lockdown, it's possible that you might not be able to order your script. And then he said that look at the question again and check what went wrong. But then also try to download the paper from SAICA so that you can be able to look at each paper and be able to look at what went wrong. What is SAICA saying the suggested solution is, and what did you initially write? And he also said the greatest challenge is the fact that now you are studying something that you already know. You completed your CTA and you've already attempted ITC for the first time, so you are familiar with so many things. So the issue is, how do you actually go about it? And I like how he actually gave a suggestion. He did say that when you're going through everything, just isolate all the issues you have. So each topic, you can just look at the 10 topics that you each subject, you can look at maybe 10 topics that you've been struggling with, and then you can tackle them day by day. And the other thing that he was saying is that you don't really have to go through details. You don't have to study everything as if you are just starting with everything. It's not going to make any sense. And lastly, he said plan. You know, without a plan, you really can't do anything. Is there anything you want to add, Dave?
So part of the planning for me in me attempting ITC the second time around was to, first of all, like I said, isolate everything that you're not comfortable with and have it sitting in a bank. And if that bank, guys, if that bank is 3 pages long and you have a topic each line, you are in a better position than somebody who has got 5 lines of topics that they need to address. The more topics you have, the better your chances of actually tackling much of what you need to tackle. I then got one of these big calendars, and what I then did is I had it plotted on my wall. I put it up on my wall, and for every day I had a specific topic. From the list that I had a specific topic that I was wanting to tackle each day. And of course, you make yourself accountable to yourself. You also need to make time to sit down at the end of every day and say, this is what I was supposed to do, despite work commitments and whatever else. Right now, it boils down to how badly you want to pass it. And if you want to pass bad enough, you'll make it happen. So I'd get back from work, rest, and thereafter do my chunk. Like, guys, you don't have to bite the entire mountain all at once. Just a small piece that you do a day. Guys, that'll make a difference. And as you start doing this every day, Monday through to Monday, you are just dedicating about an hour and a half before bedtime. You're just going over a specific topic, going over your notes that you made, handwritten notes related to that particular topic, then comparing your notes that you made to what is being said in the formal literature, be it the IFRS, the standards, the ISAs, the legislation paper. Compare what you've written in your notes to what's in there, understand how the two relate, and then maybe look at what has been tested. Look at what has been tested on that particular topic, either in your home university, from your board course file, or even from any past ITC paper, just to see how you could be tested on the topic. This you do every day, and you realize that as you do this, your confidence returns. Because that is truly what you need to be working on right now. Being confident and being comfortable. And I'm just looking at my notes now just to make sure that I have actually...
Yes, that's all right. Yes, please.
Now, in you planning, here's another thing. Time is everything, guys. In your planning, with you plotting the topics to every day, leave the last 2 weeks out. The last week and a half to 2 weeks, leave it out.
So what will you be doing during the last 2 weeks?
In the last 2 weeks, Zanele, because what you need to, again, the fact that you have your CTA means you're competent enough. So in the last 2 weeks, all you are working on is your confidence. you are now saying the topics that I'm comfortable with, I need to revisit. So in the last 2 weeks, you are visiting. So Zanele, they're asking that you mute your mic because the wind is messing with the sound.
Oh yes, okay. Do you see the, I don't even know. Do you have muting here on?
I don't think we can mute our
That's the thing. Instagram doesn't have
mic
mute, but
on
I think the
Instagram.
phone is not that hot now. Yeah, okay, the phone is not that hot, and we're about to finish. So we will switch off the fan now,
Sorry.
and let's hope it won't cut us off now. Okay. um, okay. Yes. So you were saying that. Thank you, Sanderson. So you were saying that within the last 2 weeks, this is when you'll be working on your confidence. So how do we work on our confidence?
How you work on your confidence is you go back to, I mean, at this point in time, you already know the SAICA examinable pronouncements, you know the competency framework, and you can then, based off of that, you can now sit and say, these are the topics I know I'm comfortable with. And each day, you pick 2 or 3 topics per subject. You're already comfortable with these. All you're doing is just jogging your memory. You're just jogging your memory to say, today I know I'm comfortable with, say, IAS 40. I know IAS 40, I'm comfortable with it. I also know perhaps IFRS 9, and I also know IFRS 16. So today, I'm going to just focus on these 3 standards. I'm going to go over IAS 40, IFRS 9, IFRS 16. And because you know these topics and you're certain, and this is where you honestly speaking to yourself about whether or not you know them, and because you're now certain of this, you sit with them and go over the intricate parts of each of these standards, just reminding yourself and perhaps even thinking back to past papers that you've written to say, I remember it got tested in this way. How else can it be tested? What are these? What is it that the standard is saying here? Do I understand this? If you failed it in the past before you understood it, you then think, I remember I failed it because I did not understand this principle or this intricate part of the principle. So just jog your memory. And in the last 2-3 days, guys, afford yourselves time to rest.
Yes, definitely.
Afford yourselves time to rest. I remember with my, like I said, I was deliberate about it. I was deliberate I was deliberate about passing.
Yes.
So the punch I gave in ITC June began the week after I had realized I had failed. I put in so much effort in the weeks immediately after having gotten my results that the week before I wrote, I felt I had nothing more to do.
Yeah.
I had nothing more to do apart from resting and just making sure that I'm in the right headspace and I'm just ready. Yeah. Here's a question online. I'm sorry for asking again. I would like to know if I would be, oh, come on, I just lost it. I would like to know if I'd be wasting time to do the questions again. If I do a full post-mortem of the papers, does that include doing the papers again under exam conditions? I think if you're doing a post-mortem of a paper, you are identifying where you have gone wrong. And because you've seen this paper, you are most likely not going to be doing it honestly under exam conditions. I don't know, Zanele, you can give your advice here.
Yeah. My perspective is quite different. So you can answer it on that, and then I'll jump onto it and then move on to my other tips that I can give. But you've given most of them, but then you can finish this one and then I'll jump into that.
Just with how I handled it, I just said, where did I go wrong? What are the principles or the topics I went wrong with? And then went into those topics without looking at the paper. I just looked at the paper to say, this is the topic that is being examined here. I then went into my standards, whatever parts that dealt with that particular topic, studied those parts. And then after having studied them, I said, in the ITC, this is how they examined it. Let me go back to how my home university vids had examined in previous papers the same topics. That way I got to see differences in how it can be examined and how the same principle can be demonstrated under different circumstances. The learning for me wasn't that, because I felt if I am seeing this question in an ITC paper and the company is, for instance, a manufacturer, chances are in the ITC, this question will not appear in a manufacturer's situation, in a manufacturing company's setup, but the principles in it will still remain the same. So I need to understand, if I see it in a retailer, I would love to see it in a retailer. If I have seen it in the ITC, a manufacturing entity, I would want to understand how it was examined in a manufacturing entity's financial statements or setup, rather, a business model that's a manufacturer. So you need to, learning for me is not in redoing the paper. It's in solidifying the principles, because the principle will be examined in different settings.
Yes.
And that's basically it. It's a daily thing, you guys. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing up until you sit at exam. It's an everyday thing. Building the confidence,
now.
Working.
It starts now. It doesn't start in June or in, like it starts now. It doesn't start in May. It starts now. Thank you, Dave. So I'll be going through what I have written down, but you've said most of it here. I'm just going to give you guys my perspective. Can you guys see me? Because I can't see myself because of the camera. The way it's
we can see you.
Okay, you can see me. That's all right. So the things that we did differently. I do agree that you need to process your emotions. So what I did is that after I got my results, I spent the entire weekend just resting. I didn't even work. And then the next, I think that Sunday, I bought a study desk because I didn't have a study desk. And then I started planning. But I gave myself at least a weekend just to get over the shock of the results. So what we did differently is that, you said you ordered your script from SAICA. From my perspective, I didn't order I just decided not to order the script because SAICA sent me a letter that showed me each question, how much I scored. So the moment I got that letter, I felt like, okay, I don't want to see the detail on this. And I'm not disregarding the fact that it will be helpful. It's helpful to actually get your script and see what you were thinking at that time. So what I did differently is that I didn't order the script, but rather what I did is that I downloaded the papers and I set out within a whole week. Each day I would wake up in the morning and I would attempt the question under the exam conditions I gave. So I would wake up very early, attempt the question, go to work, and then when I come back, I would mark that. And then after marking that, I would then reflect and compare it to the solution that SAICA had. So I'm glad that we actually did this like this, whereby you bring your perspective and I can also share what I've done. So guys, let's say because of the pandemic, you are not able to get your script, or maybe you don't want to waste any further time, you can still do it that way. You can, obviously you won't be able to get the letter as well, but what you can do now is that you can schedule maybe every morning to start just attempting a question each, and then start with the reflection process that Dave was talking about. Yes. And then, this one, I also mentioned this one. The main challenge is really the fact that you are dealing with stuff that you have seen before, and you don't have to act like you have never seen them. So what I did is that I took a different approach for different subjects. So for example, I realized that for management accounting, I did perform poorly. And I realized that I preferred my management accounting notes from the board course in comparison to the ones that I got at Vids. So, but that was just my preference. So what I did is that I went to the topics that I was struggling with, and I actually started from the notes from the board course, only those significant topics that I did very poorly, not everything. So I just used those notes, and then I kept practicing the questions from management accounting. And then, for example, audit, I performed well. So what I did there, I just brushed over what I already knew. It was just practice as normal. Financial accounting, I did what Dave was talking about in terms of like isolating what has went wrong and actually doing more questions putting them in the principal bank. And then if maybe there's a topic that you feel strong, for example, I think valuations, I was struggling with valuations. I actually went back to the notes, my vet notes and the broadcast notes, and I actually started making other notes, like just simplified notes on valuations, because I felt like I wasn't getting it. But however, that's like maybe one in like 5 topics that I had to do that for. You don't have to do that for everything. Yeah, so basically it's everything that Dave was saying. It's just those few things that I had to add there. And when it comes to the last 2 weeks, leaving the last 2 weeks to gain your confidence, I definitely agree. Because if you leave the last 2 weeks to actually do the bulk of the work, your confidence is gonna drop, and it won't fix anything, because you're just gonna get there, you'll still be anxious, and you'll be thinking about what happened in January that you are actually trying to avoid. So please, guys, do use the last 2 weeks to actually gain your confidence. So if you're going to use the last 2 weeks to gain your confidence, that means your plan that we've been speaking about, this starts now. The plan starts now. You can't be deferring it. If you have dealt with the emotions, then the plan should be starting soon. And I like the fact that Dave said he had a calendar, a big calendar. And I also love that as well, because you get to wake up and see that, okay, this topic, maybe financial accounting, I still have to do groups, and this is where I am with groups, everything. So just detail it in a plan that you can always see.
Zanele, can I there for a second?
Yes. Yes.
The beauty about putting together this calendar and plotting things for you to cover every day is, in the last week, in that week before you write, all you can do is you stand by that calendar with a ruler and you're like, this is the topic I had to cover. I covered it. And you're just literally stand, not writing anything. You're just standing and say, in this topic, this is what's going on. You are now explaining everything to yourself that you covered on a day-to-day basis in the weeks leading to the ITC in June. So it's also part of, it's a tool to help you go back to everything that you know, everything that you've studied, everything that you've gone over in your prep for ITC in the last week, without even sweating it, without even, having to dig and work, because the work has really been done in the previous weeks.
Awesome. So yeah, I think we can wrap it up now. Thank you, Dave. This is proper, and I hope you guys are taking the screenshots now, even though I will be uploading it on YouTube, but please do take screenshots now whilst you have time, because that can take long. So yeah, Dave, do you have any last words before we finish this?
So this morning I came across a beautiful, beautiful quote, and I feel I should just share it with you guys. It's by Tene.
I'm glad you brought a quote. We could use one.
It was so relevant. It's a quote by Tene Edwards. She says, she's a poet, and says, when you're feeling like a failure, remember the grenades you have crushed, the setbacks you have overcome, the battles you have won. This journey through life is rough, I know, but still with courage, you climb. The strength you have built will take you places. Be proud of the warrior you have become. And I honestly feel like every single person who is going to be repeating ITC in June needs to remember that, I mean, you've overcome undergrad, you've overcome CTA. To sit the ITC, guys, is a privilege. Many people want a CTA. They don't have it. You already have it in the bag. So honestly, truly, ITC is really, really doable. You guys can do it. You guys can do it. Just remember, plan, do everything that you need to do calmly. Emotions aside, work calmly on a daily basis, stay focused, and everything will come together well, honestly.
Consistency. Yes, consistency. Thank you. Like, that quote was brilliant, because I can still remember the shame I felt when I failed ITC, and the other people that I knew in my year passed it. So in you sharing that, I just remembered how it really felt when you feel like maybe people are even judging your competence, and that's not the case.
That's
It's just that at that point you were not able to tackle that, but it doesn't mean that you are not competent. And just like what you said, you have achieved so many things and you have gone through CTA. So what is ITC? With a proper
what is
plan and implementing all of this, you can do it.
definitely, definitely.
This was great. So guys, I'm just gonna end with saying that check out Valo Learning Center. We'll be providing more information on how we will be supporting you in this journey as well. So yeah, now just enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and thank you for joining the live. And I'll try to get it onto YouTube as soon as possible. Okay, bye.
Cheers, guys. All the best.